Morning, everyone. Now, if I was to just tell you all to be quiet right now, it wouldn't really have much effect because you're all very well behaved and already sitting quietly and kind of know what the deal is. Much better behaved than the children in school and much better behaved than my own children. But if I went down to Pool Quay or Sandbanks Beach and started shouting, "Quiet," at the waves, nothing would happen, would it? Absolutely nothing would happen, apart from after a suitable period of time, some people would come and take me away and put me in a comfortable place. But you know the story, don't you? You know this story. When Jesus does that, a furious squall, Jesus in a boat with his disciples, a furious squall came up and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, he rebuked the winds and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." It's a pretty remarkable story, isn't it? Boats, lakes, more than one boat. There's other people there as well, other boats, all kind of panicking in the storm. Jesus is asleep because he has absolute confidence about how this event is going to unfold. All this was his idea and his doing. The disciples in a panic wake him up. And he simply commands the winds and the waves to quieten down and to be still. The point is pretty simple, isn't it? The point is really that Jesus' authority extends to unexpected places. You know, we've seen Jesus do some pretty cool stuff, haven't we? We've seen him teaching with authority. We've seen him, his teaching is much more convincing and much more powerful and authoritative than other people who were teaching around that time. We've seen him kind of call a group of disciples to follow him, and people kind of respond to who he is and what he's doing, and they follow him. It's one thing to be able to kind of be really, really persuasive in your teaching and to be able to kind of get a group of people to follow you. It is a completely different kettle of fish to tell the wind and the waves to behave themselves. Can you see? Jesus' authority extends to unexpected places. He's not just some really, really engaging and influential person who's good at gathering a crowd and really, really persuasive. Do you see what Jesus is doing here? The disciples are starting to cotton on a little bit, don't they? They hear and see what Jesus does, and their question is not, how did he do that? But, do you see this? Mark chapter 4, verse 41. Who is this? Their response is not really to do with what Jesus is doing and how did he manage to get the wind and the waves to do that. The point is, who on earth has the authority to do that? Who on earth has the authority to tell the wind to shut up and the waves to get down and be still? Because you see, this demonstration of Jesus' authority isn't simply a display of his power, is it? It is a display of his identity. We've seen that all the way through Mark so far, haven't we? Mark has been pointing us time and time again to say, have you cottoned on to who Jesus is yet? As you remember, Jack a couple of weeks ago told us, Mark front loads his whole book with this declaration, the beginning of the good news, Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of God, and then proceeds to show us time and time again, via his authority, that Jesus is God. In this instance, He is telling the wind and the waves what to do. That must mean that the wind and the waves are under Jesus' authority. That must mean that Jesus is Lord and creator of them, which can only mean that Jesus is God, because only the creator of the wind and the waves get to tell them what to do, as we know, because every time you tell it to stop raining, it doesn't do that, does it? Jesus' authority extends to unexpected places. He is more powerful than you think he is, and he is readily able to demonstrate that so that you can grasp precisely who this guy is. We see a very similar thing in the event that in the episode that Jonathan just read for us. Jesus and the disciples get in their boats again, and they cross the lake to the region of the Decapolis, to a place called Gerasenes. The significance there is that this is now Gentile territory. Jesus is a Jew. All his friends and followers are Jews. So far, he's been working in synagogues and calling Jews to follow him. But now he's in a completely different neighborhood. And the idea was that the God of the Jews, he was fine over there where the Jews are, but over here where the Gentiles are, different kettle of fish, different ball game, different rules. So Jesus goes over there. And as he goes over there, he finds this person, this man who is plagued not just by one demon. We've seen Jesus drive out demons. Singular, like one per person. This is an unfair match as far as Jesus is concerned, isn't it? Because we've got one Jesus and, well, depending on how you count it, probably 2,000 demons in one guy, given that there was 2,000 pigs and they probably all had a demon go into them each. And so we've got thousands and thousands of demons and one Jesus. The odds are stacked against him. He's out of his comfort zone. Plus we've got pigs, which, if you go away and read Leviticus, are unclean animals. No one would be expecting Jesus' authority to extend all the way over here, to this place, to a couple of thousand demons and a herd of pigs. This is unexpected territory. And what happens? The demons just start panicking. They are fraught and worried. Verse 6, when Jesus saw, this demon-possessed guy, when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirits." Then Jesus said, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. Can you see what's going on here? Jesus' authority extends to unexpected places. Places where we wouldn't think Jesus would go, or places where we wouldn't think Jesus would be as powerful. You know what it's like when you practice doing something at home, or you get used to doing something in a certain place or context, and then all of a sudden you have to do it in a different place or a different context, and it all starts to go wrong, doesn't it? Maybe when you learn a musical instrument and you can play it fine at home on your own piano or on your own guitar or trumpet or flute or whatever it is. But as soon as you have to go outside of home and play it in front of other people, it all starts to crumble, doesn't it? That's what we would expect to see, isn't it? Jesus is out of his comfort zone. The odds are stacked against him, and yet he is still as authoritative as he has ever been. And we have exactly the same conclusion, don't we? Not just, wow, this guy's really authoritative, but once again, we're driven to the question of Jesus' identity. What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I don't know about you. I grew up in churches. So I've spent my whole life listening to people explain the Bible and teach these stories from the Gospels. And it is really easy, isn't it, for us to just get used to these ideas of stories of what Jesus did, these episodes, these events. And they kind of blur, and we know that Jesus can heal people and Jesus can drive out demons. And we quickly become so familiar with these things that we lose some of the impact. It's really easy, isn't it, for us to read through Mark's gospel and hear the last few sermons and nod along to all these truths about Jesus. It is a completely different thing for us to stop for a minute and think about what is actually happening here. Jesus is demonstrating to everyone around, to his disciples, to the demoniac, to the people of the Decapolis, demonstrating with no uncertainty that there is absolutely no place to which Jesus' authority does not extend. There's just nowhere. You can't get far enough out on a boat for Jesus to not be able to tell the wind and the waves what to do. You can't cross a lake and get to some deserted region and find out that Jesus' authority kind of stopped a couple of miles back. Jesus' authority goes everywhere. Every situation is under his control, his rule, his redeeming power. That applies as much to us today as it did to the disciples in a boat and to the demoniac in Gerasenes, to our work, to our family, to our marriage, to our personal lives, to our struggles, to our successes, to our victories, to our losses. Jesus' authority extends to unexpected places. The places where we think that Jesus doesn't have control or maybe doesn't even have any interest, these events wake us up and say, look, in the middle of a storm on a little boat or in some far reaches where we never thought Jesus would go, there we find his authority is still at work. Why? Because of precisely who he is. Jesus, the Son of the Most High God. That's what Mark wants us to take away from these things, isn't it? You know, there's an awful lot of kind of Christianity at the moment is plagued with lots of kind of not always that helpful, fluffy stuff about how we feel, isn't it? Lots of books that try and make us feel better. Because actually, we don't really need to feel better. What we need is Jesus to be the Son of the Most High God, which is declared and confirmed for us without any ambiguity. Who is this? This is Jesus. He is the Son of the Most High God. All your unexpected situations and struggles don't need fixing so that you feel better. They need Jesus and his authority as Son of the Most High God. So when you go about your week, whatever that might hold, whatever you might find yourself, whatever people you brush shoulders with, whatever things you're looking forward to, tomorrow or on Thursday or a week on Friday, whatever things you're worried about, all those unexpected places, Jesus is already there with his authority and his identity of Son of the Most High God. But all of that might sound a little bit impersonal, might it? Situations, identities, storms, pigs. And so Mark merges these ideas together with the next episode to remind us not just that Jesus' authority extends to unexpected places, but also that Jesus' mercy extends to unexpected people. Jesus isn't really all that bothered about what the winds and the waves are doing. He is much more bothered about how the disciples are doing. And he really doesn't give two hoots about a legion of demons, but he does care about the demoniac and the people of the Decapolis. We've already seen him help some helpless fishermen, and this demoniac who is so violent and untamable that he lives out in the wilderness on his own and keeps breaking the chains that people try to tie him up with. We've seen him fix all those guys, and now we see another event. Read with me Mark 5, going from verse 21. When Jesus had crossed again over by boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered around him while he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue leaders named Jairus came, and when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet. He pleaded earnestly with him, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hand on her, so that she will be healed and live." So Jesus went with him. A large crowd pressed around him, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had, yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, "If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed." Immediately, her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. At once, Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched me?" "You see all the people crowding against you," the disciples answered. "How can you yet ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. When the woman, knowing what had happened, knowing what happened to her, came and fell at his feet, trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." While Jesus was still speaking, some people came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader. "Your daughter is dead," they said. "Why bother the teacher anymore?" Overhearing what they said, Jesus told them, "Don't be afraid, just believe." He did not let anyone follow him except Peter and James and John, the brother of James. When they came to the house of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw the commotion with the people crying and wailing loudly. He went in and said, "Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep." But they laughed at him. After he put them out, he took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Talitha, cum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Immediately the girl stood up and began walking around. She was 12 years old. At this they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this. He told them to give her something to eat. Can you see Jesus' mercy extends to unexpected people? Fishermen, Gentile demoniacs, and now we have a combination of things, don't we? We have two women, a young 12-year-old girl and an old widow. So we have two women who in society at that time weren't regarded as particularly as significant and useful to society as men. And at the same time, we have a very rich family and we have a very poor family. Jairus, the synagogue leader, would have been a significant person in the town. He would have been a wealthy guy. He clearly had a big house. He could afford lots of servants and helpers. Whereas we have this other elderly widow who's been subject to bleeding for 12 years and has run out of money trying to find doctors who can help her. And what do we see? We see Jesus extend his great mercy to both of them. Jesus picks up on the fact of the people who think that he is just a teacher. Why bother the teacher anymore? You can almost see Jesus smirking at the side of his face, can't you? They think I'm just a teacher. Let me show how great my mercy extends beyond teaching them God's word. So he kind of ignores those guys and says, don't listen to them. This girl's not dead. She's just asleep. And so he goes in and simply, a bit like he did with the wind and the waves, he tells death to just do one. And the girl gets up and starts walking around and gets some food. Again, if you're very familiar with reading the Gospels, you might miss the fact that this is the first time we've seen in Mark's Gospel Jesus raise a dead person. This, as far as the progress of Mark's Gospel, ups the ante again. Jesus isn't just healing people now, he's taking dead people and making them alive. And he's healing this woman who has been subject to bleeding for 12 years, which incidentally is the same age as the little girl. I don't know if you spotted the details. She's been traveling all over the place, spending every penny she can on some doctors to try and help her bleeding, and there's nothing that can happen, nothing can help her. She's just getting worse. Until she encounters Jesus. And just in case you think there might be anything magical going on with Jesus' clothes, she clearly does. She thinks, if I touch his clothes, I'll be healed. Jesus clearly rebukes that idea and says, it's nothing to do with my clothes. My clothes don't glow in the dark. They're not special. It is your faith that has freed you from your suffering. Your faith has healed you. Her trust in Jesus and his goodness, his authority, his power, his willingness and ability to heal her are the very thing that causes her bleeding to stop. And so can you see, tied into all these events, the Gentile demoniac exorcism, the pigs, the Jairus' daughter, and the bleeding woman, we see Jesus' authority. But you see, we're not just seeing Jesus' authority, are we? This is not just a power display of Jesus. Not only does it point to his identity as Jesus, Son of the Most High God, it also confirms his great mercy. Have a look, if you didn't spot it, chapter 5, verse 19. Go home to your own people. Tell them how much the Lord has done for you, and how he has had mercy on you. You see, Jesus is not just going around showing off all the stuff he can do. He's not kind of a magician showing his great skills and abilities. He's going around demonstrating who he is and the extent of his boundless mercy to really needy people, hopeless people, who've cottoned onto the fact that he is their only hope. Can you see, we see Jesus' authority extending to unexpected places, and we see his mercy extending to unexpected people. People that we might have assumed that Jesus would just turn a blind eye to. A Gentile across the other side of the lake, Jesus could easily have said, that's not my territory. Let some other God deal with that. Or to a 12-year-old girl, she's like, life is hard, sorry, death is bad, what can we do? Or to a woman who's been bleeding and can't get it fixed, she's like, yeah, that's the limits of modern medicine for you, sorry. Instead, at every point, go and tell them how he has had mercy on you. And then tied into all of this, chapter 5 calls us to follow the same pattern of making this known to other people. Chapter 5, verse 14, those tending the pigs ran off and reported in their town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened.
When they came to Jesus, they saw this man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there dressed and in his right mind. They were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs as well. And when then the people plead with Jesus to leave their region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him, but Jesus did not let him. Go to your own people. Go to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done, and all the people were amazed. Because we've seen Jesus' authority extending to where we don't expect it. We've seen his mercy extending to those we don't expect it to. And in the center of these events is this contrast of people and how they respond. Some of these people are begging Jesus to go away, not because they don't know who he is. They just cannot cope. They will not engage with him. They will not trust him. They will not respond properly to him. We see people responding. The old woman. We see Jesus, her responding to Jesus with great faith and trust. We see Jesus calling the people in Jairus' family and surroundings to trust. And we see this demon-possessed man being told to go and make known all that Jesus has done for him. We can start piecing these things together into our own lives and hearts and minds, can't we? We've already said all those situations where we think Jesus is not bothered or not involved. He is already there. The people who think that Jesus isn't interested in them, can you see he is? You, even that situation, even where you are now or where you might find yourself at some future point, Jesus' mercy extends to unexpected people so that we can go and make known to others who haven't yet realized who he is, that this is Jesus, the Son of the Most High God. Now, the response that Mark is looking for is pretty obvious, isn't it? He says to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" He says to the bleeding woman, "Daughter, your faith has healed you." He says to the crowds following him to Jairus' house, "Don't be afraid, just believe." Jesus expects us to see these acts of his power and authority, to grasp his identity and his mercy, and to put our trust in him for all those different situations and places and times, for all those people that we think are beyond his control. We're being called to trust that he, by his death and resurrection, is able to show mercy and forgiveness and healing and restoration to all of those people. And that as we see that unfolding in our own hearts and lives, we are to go tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. Jesus' authority extends to unexpected places, and Jesus' mercy extends to unexpected people. Let me pray for us. Lord Jesus, thank you for showing your authority in those situations to those people. Thank you for revealing your identity to them through your actions so that we today can see who you are. Jesus, thank you for healing that bleeding woman. Father, thank you for raising Jairus' daughter from the dead. so that we can know that your mercy extends even to people like us. Please help us as we go out from here to follow the same instructions you gave to the man who was demon-possessed, to go and make known how much the Lord has done for us and how he has had mercy on us. Amen.